Hello, I'm Francesco Lembo, Managing Director at Tesier Plus, Association of Cities and Regions for Sustainable Resource Management, and I'm excited to welcome you at the Circular Economy and Local Government's Sustainable Resource Management to Mitigate Climate Change workshop in the framework of the European Union side events at COP26. Before thanking the co-organizers and speakers, let me start with a couple of background elements just to tell you about the context in which this workshop was conceived. First one is about the link between circular economy and climate change. There's an already more than established literature that has clarified how the impact of material production accounts for from 30% to 45% of the European carbon footprint. We have this from Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and Eurostat data. And circular economy has a tremendous potential to mitigate the impact of products by preventing waste generation, extending the lifetime of products, or closing loops of materials. The second key element, even more relevant, is the fundamental role that cities and regions play in the transition from linear to circular economy. With a little of license, I'd like to think of cities and regions as bridges, not just as regulators. Their role includes easing companies, financing during the transition to circular business models, stimulating the demand of sustainable products and services, keeping a constant dialogue with citizens and not only with citizens, and raise awareness on sustainability, and also leading by the example with the green public procurement, which is 14% of the European GDP as an example. And as well, cities, they monitor and follow the transition towards circular economy in all its aspects. So this was just to give you the common ground on which, and finally we come to the first thank you words. The three co-organizers of this workshop work to collect stories and inspirational speakers that can tell us how European cities and regions are moving steps to reduce the EU carbon footprint of several key sectors by implementing feasible but ambitious action. So let's name the three co-organizers. Tesier Plus, Association of Cities and Regions for Sustainable Resource Management. I'm proud to be here to represent the network together with Hayan Gulan, that you will have the chance to learn later. We have ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, and Hesam University. All the three organizations, hi Jordana, all the three organizations are leading initiatives to support, benchmark, and stimulate circular economy loops in cities and regions. And the first panel of presentation will serve to present how those three initiatives were conceived. Let's start by warming up a bit with the audience. So we have a few polls to get to know a bit better about you. And which is your previous knowledge or sensitivity about circular economy topics. Normally, you are following us on the event platform, so you will find these polls scrolling down on the page of the event on the bottom left, if I'm not wrong. Let's start with the first poll. So tell us. You can start telling us what sector does your organization represent. Let's know you a bit more. Let's give you roughly 30 seconds to answer to this question. Okay, maybe we can start closing the poll. Okay, let's try with the second poll. We see that we still need to warm up a bit. And let's start with maybe an easier question. So how familiar you are with the topic of circular economy? Okay, and good to know. I've heard of it is kind of the best background to keep listening what we have to share in this workshop. And we have also some almost technician, if not expert. Nice to know. Okay, let's close the second poll and let's go with the third question to start this workshop. So what sectors do you consider top priority for local or regional circular economy action? I hope this will be a truly relevant question also to feed the discussion afterwards. Okay, so equal number of amber answers, well distributed on food, construction, and energy and water. Okay, so food and bio-waste are taking the lead. I think that through one of the stories we are going to hear, we will have some confirmation on your position. Okay, let's close the third poll. And let's finally start with the first panel. We should have a first background slide to introduce you to the panelist of the first panel. Thank you. In the first panel, we will learn more about three initiatives, the one I mentioned earlier. And we will learn more directly from some of their protagonists. I will need to ask to speakers to keep their intervention in a 5 minutes limit, and also to tell next slide when needed. So technical team will move to the next slide. Let's start with Arno Bonte, Vice Mayor for sustainability, energy transition, and clean air in the city of Rotterdam. And he is here to tell us more about the commitments made under the Circular Cities Declaration. Arno, thank you for being here. Floor is yours.
Yeah, Francisco, thanks a lot. The Circular Cities Declaration, we are a proud member of this declaration as the city of Rotterdam. But maybe explain first what a circular city is. Actually, a circular city is a city that promotes the transition from a linear economy to a circular economy. For example, the city of Rotterdam aims to become a completely circular economy in 2050, and to reduce the primary resources with 50% in 2030. And the Circular City Declaration helps us in getting that ambition come true. You may ask what are the benefits of signing this Circular Cities Declaration? What actually does it do? First of all, by signing this declaration, you show your commitments to this circular transition. And that's also important, for example, to show to the businesses in your city, or to show to your national government or to the international government, and also to other cities, so that you can identify where you can work together. Secondly, it provides the city also with a shared vision of a circular city. It's one thing to have an ambition, but how actually does this circular city in the future look like? So this is what the declaration can help us with. Thirdly, it underlines also to the international community the crucial role of local governments in the transition to a circular economy. And last but not least, it also gives us the opportunity to share knowledge, share experiences with cities among each other, and also, of course, the successes. How did it work out for Rotterdam? First of all, we gathered insights and ideas from other cities that we could use to make a strategy and a roadmap, not only as the city government, but together with more than 100 companies and organizations. And part of this strategy and roadmap was also the development of 55 projects that will contribute to this circular economy and also the reduction of carbon dioxide. And these are projects in the field of food, of textile, and the development and construction of buildings. And all these projects together, and there are more to come, help us in getting our goal accomplished of a reduction of 50% of not only CO2, but also 50% of the use of primary resources. So in the end, thanks to the Circular Cities Declaration and also the strategy and the roadmap we've developed with all the companies in our city, we are able to become a circular city as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arno. And considering that we still have a couple of minutes in your time slot, thank you for explaining the Circular Cities Declaration key impacts, especially in the knowledge sharing aspects. You mentioned also about political commitment, how the Circular Cities Declaration helped, what it gave back in terms of local commitment of different stakeholders.
What is important that, for example, the European Union knows that we are one of the front runners since we have signed the Circular Cities Declaration. So it is also easier for us to get, for example, funding from Europe or help from Europe, or to find other cities that can also be a partner in getting our ambitions done. So these are one of the few examples that actually were beneficial of signing this Circular Cities Declaration. But of course, we are much longer than we have signed the Circular Cities Declaration. For a long time already, also a member of ICLAI. So in general, to be a member of this international networks of frontrunners in the fields of sustainability helps to get your own goals bring into practice.
Thank you very much, Arno. And we will able to discuss more, even because you will be part of the second panel to answer a few more questions. So I would now move to Ayan Gulad. Hello, Ayan. Thanks for being with us. Over then, being CEO of Zero Waste Scotland, Ayan is also currently ACR Plus president. So if there's a bit of confidentiality, you will forgive us. Hello, Ayan. So Arno started with two key concepts that I think are a good thread to move to your presentation. Being front runners and international networks and international cooperation. I think that the PAVE is led for your intervention and speech.
Okay, thank you, Francisco, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today from the city of Glasgow, another one of the signatories to what the Circular Cities Declaration, and also very much at the focus of fight against climate change. All of the, I mean, it's quite interesting, although the focus for COP26 has very much been around countries declaring commitments, etc. I mean, certainly all the sessions I've been involved in, important the cities and regions are in not just signing up to things, but actually taking actions forward. And I think there's a real growing awareness, particularly around the circular economy being a real fundamental part of cities' actions to address climate change. So the More Circularity, Less Carbon initiative that we are running as part of ACR Plus in conjunction with my own organisation, Zero Waste Scotland. I'm just going to give you a kind of flavour of what's that about and results to date. So it's very much about helping our members, ACR members across Europe, to really assess the total carbon impact, carbon footprint of their waste in their city and region. It's based on our own Scottish carbon metric that combines waste data and the emission factors from the treatment of each fraction, as well as the embedded carbon emissions that are in each of the material streams that we are talking about. And it's kind of combines together from that data comes from some more recognized data points that are internationally recognized. Next slide, please. So why this is, I think, really important is that, you know, we understand, as Francesco said right at the beginning, that, you know, we need to highlight not just, you know, the impact of waste on our various societies, but the impact of consumption emissions when we're considering tackling climate change. I think it's just, you know, it's broadly accepted now. I mean, Francesco gave some figures there for the European numbers, but for Scotland, we know that over 50%, it's actually over 50% of our carbon footprint comes from the production, consumption, and ultimately wasting of our material products, and, you know, a considerable amount of that actually comes here in Scotland is an issue for other parts of the world as well. And I'm probably realistic to understand that most other European countries will have a similar impact, both in their own countries and outside of that. So it's really about how do we measure, how do we support our individual cities and regions to measure, you know, what's happening on the ground. So taking that kind of bigger picture analysis, but drilling it down into more detailed and bespoke analysis at a local level, depending on specific waste streams, specific treatment options, and ultimately, you know, cultures of where those materials are coming in from. So move to the next slide, please. I'll give you some ideas. So we've been working with this campaign was launched in 2019, just the end of 2019. Unfortunately, things did get a bit slow because of the COVID pandemic, but we have completed what we called the first cohort with three of our members, which really understood, again, working with their data sets in terms of waste management and analyzing
Okay, Ian, maybe there's
available data point in terms of treatment, in terms of, am I breaking up? Am I back, Francesco?
Yes, now you're back.
Right.
You froze for a couple of seconds.
Right, okay. So I'll try and just come to the end there before I break down all completely. So basically what it shows is that, as you would imagine, it's very specific. Each of the members that we work with have a distinct, different makeup of the waste stream, so therefore the different carbon impacts are different.
I'm
really
afraid
allowing them to specifically focus on, although there is consistency around those materials in terms of, you know, high carbon impacts around textiles and food primarily, it allows them to take action and therefore measure the impact of that action going forward. I can see I'm breaking up again. Do you want to go on to the next slide? It might be the last one.
Here it is, but I think you froze again.
Please.
Here.
Plans to roll this out. You just want to go through the slides, Francisco? Please.
Okay, I think you're back online. It was a connection.
The plan is to roll this out to all our members, make it, obviously we're learning in the process. We're learning how to support the individual organizations, cities to gather the information and to provide the data set so we can plug that into basically what is a model, and then you can get the analysis quite easily. So obviously it's a learning process. Everybody collects data quite differently. Everybody has their own regional subsets. So there is a bit of investigation required, but obviously as we go through more and more members, we'll get that, we'll be able to work at that much quicker and get analysis and be able to roll this out in a much more scalable method. I will finish there, Francesco.
Thank you, Ian. Just let me make you one question, because now for both of your work, your positioning, also your geographical positioning and your relevance, you are at the core of COP26 works ongoing. And how do you feel circular economy is embedded, is integrated into discussions of COP26?
There is still quite a bit to go. I think the majority of the focus of COP26 is still very much about energy and decarbonisation of energy and electrification of vehicles and transport systems. And there is possibly limited conversations around circular economy, certainly within the main COP26 agenda. I think there are some areas, particularly in some of the countries who have cities, like obviously the Netherlands, like our own. Those countries are showcasing some of the work that's been going on around the circular economy, both at national and subnational level. So again, it's been led by those pioneers, but if I was being honest, I think it needs a lot more attention around the opportunities around the circular economy in terms of the link to climate change, both at a local level, but also at a global level, how we can all work together. So it's work in progress.
Thank you very much. A very relevant and transparent answer, Ian. So time now to move to Stephanie Mod, who's Vice President in charge of ecological transition of the Burgundy-Franche-Comté region. And she's here also to share about the successful cooperation between researchers and local governments in the Color Circle Interreg Europe project. Please, Stephanie, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for my bad English, but you can read on the slide. Good afternoon to all. I'm Mrs. Maud. I'm the VP in charge of ecological transition, including circular economies at the Burgundy-Franche-Comté region in France. I have 5 minutes to talk to you about an European project the region is involved, its first result, and why it was interesting for us to join such a project. It is an Interreg Europe's project called Color Circle, which is about circular economy and how innovative cooperation between local governments and researchers can actually help develop circular projects locally. We are 6 partners from 5 European regions across Europe. We are local authority. You can see them on the side. University and Development Regional Agency. As for all Interreg Europe projects, we aim at improving regional policy by sharing local good practices at European level. We have 3 years to mobilize local stakeholders, identify good practices, and finally elaborate a regional action plan based on examples we discovered at and with our partners. Slide 2, please. One of the first results we have is, for example, the adaptation of a French program in Spain. It is a program that sends PhD students to do their PhD in municipalities or regions, any type of local governance ready, for the entire time of their doctoral studies, with a state grant that covers half the doctoral studies salary. For example, a PhD student is working on the energy renovation of rural areas in a group of municipalities in Saône-et-Loire in the Burgundy. We presented this good practice to our partners during an European event in September 2019. And 2 years later, our Spanish partners developing a similar project inspired by this one called Puentes, which means bridge. They semester 2 students in municipality for a 6-month internship with training in circular economy and local development. And this is part of the local urban agenda of municipality. Slide 3, please. Okay, thank you. To end my speech, I would like to say a word about the Burgundy-Franche-Comté region's participation. We passed in June 2020 a regional public policy on circular economy called Interreg, which has 4 strategic areas of focus. 1, creating the condition to spread the circular economy in the region. 2, cooperating with local stakeholders to develop a territorial circular economy and increase responsible consumption and practices. 3, engaging the regional economy in the sobriety of resource and the production of sustainable goods. 4, being exemplary by dividing the regional authority resource footprint by 4. So you can see already how it fits with the Interreg Europe's approach and how the Color Circle project is helping us to mobilize our local stockholders. Together, we are now starting the elaboration of a one action plan on 4 issues: sustainable food system, valorization of low quality wood, recycling centers, and training and various ways of designing, producing, and consuming products and their components. That is for me. I am here. If you have questions or want to know more about our regional policies on circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thanks for keeping up and confirming how good can be the metaphor of bridges for local authorities when it comes to planning implementation of circular economy strategies and policies. And thanks also for highlighting one of the aspects which is not under the spotlight when it comes to circular economy local policies, which is about skills and training and how they can foster transition, especially in the to move to circular business models.
Okay.
And let's move to the next slide so we can introduce finally the second panel. I will also, while thanking Stephanie and Diane for being in the first part, if you're available, we are pretty much welcome to keep being with us for the last half an hour of this workshop when we will have a question and answer session. If there will be time, it will be nice to keep the discussion alive. So we now reached the second panel. This was thought to be an open dialogue between its participants and the audience. So we wanted to have the voices of key representatives of cities and regions to help us going through core aspects of implementation and impacts of circular economy policies at a local level. So let me thank for their participation. Let me start with Arno, but we already did it for the first panel. Let me thank also Emanuela Manca from the Environmental Protection Directorate of the Autonomous Region of Sardinia, and Nina Ruska from the Circular Turku Program Manager, Climate Environment Unit of the City of Turku. Are you all here with us? Yes, Nina, I can see you on video and we can hear you. So how we taught this panel? We will proceed with 3 rounds of triggering questions, broad enough to let you share lesson learned from local experiences and your views. Please try to keep your answer to each question to a maximum of 3-4 minutes, so we will have a time to move to some question from the audience, if we will have any, of course. So let's start with the first round. And my first question was on how is your city or region enacting circular economy policies? We know that there's no golden bullet to foster circular economy, but we know that there are inspiring stories. So can you mention an inspiring good practice from your city and region? Emanuela, I don't want, if you want to open dances.
Yes, of course I can. Hi, thank you. Thank you for letting us participating and circulating our little experience and learning by yours. So I am here representing the Sardinia regional government that just a month ago, actually it's the 6th of November, so the 6th of October, the regional government approved their sustainable regional strategy. This is the logo, you can see here, Sardinia 2030, Sardinia 2030, that sounds in Italian. And within this strategy, we tried really to activate really some policies that can really spread circular economy, like before Arno explained us for the cities. We are trying to be a regional, a circular region. And we have the privilege and the responsibility to manage it from the regional government. So what do we do this within the strategy? First of all, I have to say that we work within a participatory approach, because for making circular economy working, we really need all our intelligence, really involving stakeholders which are already doing it or maybe willing to do it. So as a region, we have the responsibility to support them and also to make this happening. So we started integrity process within the region, and then we involved all the local stakeholders to start understanding what they were doing, because of course to downscale the sustainable goals that the Agenda 2030 is suggesting us, we really need to understand what's going on and also to implement all the European policies that are going to really promote the circular economy. So we worked, of course, starting from the traditional topics of the circular economy on waste management, for example. And we tried as well to strengthen within the strategy also the all related the sustainable consumption and production. So in terms of action, what we're going to do, what are the experiences we can share? So we can finally say that we have a good management system about, for example, the use of the compost, so all the organic materials coming from the waste management, and we can use it today in agriculture. For sure, this is a concrete activity we are already doing within the region. And unfortunately, we can say that today is the only material that is really closing all the value chain in the region, because there are the rest of the materials unfortunately are sent in the continent. But we are working for it, because it's very important that the circularity is also not going too far, of course, for imitating the footprint. So we are working as well for the demolition waste supply. For example, in Cagliari, the capital of Sardinia, we are working for the new stadium, the building of the new stadium, within the demolition waste. And of course, we are trying to support all what is related to green public procurement, and as well as green private procurement, because again, we need to involve all the value chain, all the enterprises, because circular economy has, of course, to be fair, and it's important that it's a way to reduce the impact, but also to improve the well-being of the citizens and also the ecosystem of our region. So I think there are plenty in the strategy, you can find plenty of other activities that are going on or that we are trying to promote, also thanks to all the opportunities that Europe is giving us. But I don't want to take too much time, so I will leave you the floor back, and I'm still here for more information if you want. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Manuela, and thanks for the truly inspiring keywords you used for the participatory approach, which recalls how circular economy strategies need to don't leave anyone to keep anyone engaged, different level of stakeholders, listened and proactive in the process. And of course, I think we can share in the chat, feel free to share in the chat additional links to materials about the regional strategy, which of course needs more time to be studied and understood. Also, I forgot to keep inviting the audience to pose questions in the platform so that we can feed the final question and answer session before wrapping up. Let's go back to the panel. So we were going with local experience and stories. Nina, floor is yours.
Thank you. You can hear me. Yes, first I would like to mention that circular economy and resource wisdom goals are very strongly embedded in our City of Turku strategy, and now the mayor's program, which is a new program we have created, and we have a very strong political support for the climate work and also this resource wisdom goals. So that's a good start to work in our region and act as an steering actor in our region. So when the resource wisdom goal was set, and it's set to the year 2040, then the city started to draw a resource wisdom roadmap with the partners. Like we have partners Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra, and also ICLEI is one our main partner in here, and also regional partners. And when we initiated to draw the roadmap, we clearly saw that there is already quite a lot of things going on in the circular economy in our region. So that's also a good way to start. And then when we were drawing the roadmap, it was done in a very vast collaboration. We had more than 200 regional actors actively and stakeholders giving their input for the drawing and creating the roadmap's structure and finding the priority topics in our region that we have to really focus on to get the circular transition moving forward. This is already a good example that the collaboration that we have done both in the region and with the ICLEI in Europe. It's a good practice to show to others that you should also do this. And well, the roadmap is going to be published really soon, and so it's an exciting time for us now. And since I mentioned that the roadmap was built on good practices that we already know and the networks, I'd like to introduce one of the good practices, which is in the water, food, and energy nexus. And it's the wastewater treatment plant that we have built in Turku, but it doesn't serve only Turku, it serves 13 municipalities in the region. So it's it makes a lot of things for us, like it removes the nutrients from the water, it creates new fertilizers for the food production and humus for the food production or landscaping, and also we can pump heat from it, or when it's summer, we can also take the cool air from that. So And when we are removing the nutrients there, we really make a big difference. It is already showing that the sea, we are a coastal city, the sea, Baltic Sea, will improve the water there, and so it has an effect on the ecosystem. That's a very important goal in our city and the whole area. So the heat pump collects heat from the water, as I mentioned, but it also collects heat from the sludge as it is produced to a biogas. So there's this energy goal very strongly within that. So also the cycle, including the logistics, that's the whole cycle is carbon neutral, because we also consider the logistics part of the cycle. So this is, I think, a great example for how to close the whole circle of the material. So that's our news from Turku. I hope I didn't take too much time.
No, absolutely not. And it was a very well thought example to understand the implication to build, realize, and stimulate closed loops. And you mentioned the need to not to work in silos or in department, because we had to put together policies, so policy representative and different stakeholders going around the water, food, and energies flows and value chains, which is not easy at all. And I'm happy that the common thread from Emanuela's intervention to your intervention is about cross-fertilization of different policies, interdepartmental work, and participatory approaches to move on with circular economy policies fostering. Arno, floor is yours back for your local story.
Thank you. And I already explained a little about the way we work in Rotterdam. We like to work together with companies and organizations. And together with a lot of companies and organizations in Rotterdam in 2019, we made the Rotterdam Climate Agreement. And so this is an agreement with the goal to become a climate neutral city, but we integrated also our circular goals in that agreement. So we make a connection between the reduction of CO2 and the reduction of the usage of primary resources. After this climate agreement, we try to identify in which fields we could get the highest reduction. And one of these fields is the field of textiles. Textiles worldwide are responsible for about 10% of the carbon emissions. So if you reduce the amount of textiles, you are able to also reduce not only the usage of resources, but also the emission of CO2. For example, in the Netherlands, an average person owns 173 clothes, and 50 of these clothes are not used in the last year. And every year, an average person buys 46 new clothes. And we thought in Rotterdam, what if we could convince the people in Rotterdam to buy 6 pieces of clothes less than they would normally do? Just 6, instead of 46 clothes, 40 clothes. And we made a calculation, and that showed that we could, if we were able to convince our citizens, we will be able to make a reduction of 28,000 tons of CO2 a year. Women will contribute more than men. Women will contribute 60,000 tons, and men will contribute 12,000 tons of CO2 reduction if we accomplish to convince our citizens to buy less clothes. So for that, we started a campaign. It's called the Trash to Treasure campaign, to convince people to think more circular, but also to, for example, buy less clothes. But we also supported small initiatives and small companies. One of these companies, which is located in the shopping center in the city center, it's called the Swap Shop. So you can swap your clothes. You can come by, bring your old clothes, which are usually still good. You get store credits for that, and the store credits you can use to get other clothes from other people, so you can reuse the clothes. This shop is becoming more and more popular. A similar initiative is called Wear. It's a small shoe shop, but this shop does not sell shoes, but it repairs and washes your shoes, especially sneakers. So your dirty sneakers you can bring to that shop. They are washed and they look like brand new if you get them from the shop again. So these are a few initiatives in the city itself, but together with also industrial parties in our port area, we are researching also the development of a plant for the chemical recycling of textiles, because a lot of textiles now end up in a landfill or are being burned in an incinerator, and that's of course a waste. A lot of these textiles are, if you are able to recycle them in a good way, can also be the new resources for new textiles. So these are a few examples that came out of this local agreement, the local climate agreement we made with companies and organizations, and the local research we did, and the focus on the field of textiles.
Thanks a lot, Arno. That was a truly comprehensive answer and story you told, especially because it highlights how, firstly, how addressing some specific material flow can have a measurable and relevant impact on CO2 emission. And secondly, because how addressing a material flow, improving sustainability of a material flow, it means involving all different layers of stakeholders. You mentioned Swap Shop, you mentioned citizens' engagement and participation, sustainable consumption, as well as recycling routes to be developed with companies and research centers. So it's a pretty good example that can move us to the next question, for which I'm bringing together one of the questions that we received from the audience and mix it up because it's partially overlap with our design second question for you. And I'm also inviting, whenever you want, Ayan and Stephanie, just nod with your head and let me know and please intervene. So we are finally moving to the link between climate change and circular economy. We are showing, and textile was an example, that supply chain or material flows can be analyzed, and the cities and regions can have a real impact. So what are your thoughts on which are possibilities or which are the practices to link together for local policy making, design and implementation targets of circular economy and targets of climate change? You also mentioned and you touched partially this topic, but please feel free to elaborate your thoughts on the topic. I don't know from when to start, maybe. If there are no volunteers, let's change order. Nina, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is a really interesting question. First of all, in Turku, we have a really ambitious climate goal to reach the carbon neutrality in 2029 and climate positive after that. So it's very ambitious. We have to do everything to to make it happen. So we have understood well this link between circularity and climate emissions, and we think that the successful climate policy must include the elements of circularity to address both the direct emissions and indirect emissions. So those which are embedded in product and material life cycles. So both the climate work and also the circular economy roadmap work. First of all, in practice, we do it in the same unit in our city. So that helps the discussion between these two goals, of course. And then, okay, we are quite well on the track of reducing the carbon emissions to reach the goal of carbon neutrality, but the scope 3, this life cycle in the products and material, that's one problem, of course, to how to tackle, because we need the citizens, we need the companies there, and we have at least 2 campaigns going on about this. We have climate team, which is for the companies. They can join if they do climate action or circular economy action, which reduces emissions very straightforwardly. And also the citizens we have a campaign of the 1.5 lifestyle, 1.5 degree lifestyle. So we are introducing the citizens the services that we have and the companies have about the services that if they use it, they can in their lives more easily reach this lifestyle of 1.5 degrees, like the public transport with the electric buses. That's one example, for example. And or the loaning of the books or loaning of the stuff from the library. Our library doesn't only own books, it serves in many ways. And well, those are mainly, I put in the same package the challenges and the solutions, but still there is a lot to do, and we have to reach everyone, and that's a problem. One campaign or 2 cannot reach everyone, that's for sure. But,
sorry, Nina, 30
yes.
seconds more,
Right.
so we'll give time to...
Yes, so I think we need to do this together so that the voice is louder. Thank you.
That's another very good point. Ayan, you mentioned through the carbon campaign a powerful tool to map CO2 weight, emission weight of waste and material resources. What are the next steps after planning, after mapping, how to intervene?
Yes, I mean, I guess once we have the data, once individual cities and regions have the data and analysis, it's then a lot easier for them to develop their own strategies bespoke to their particular areas, and then hopefully measure them and, you know, determine the impact that they're having. So, you know, setting their own goals, and I think that's something we're seeing in Scotland, that, you know, with the implementation of the carbon metric at a local level, we've been using it at a national level for some time, but at a local level now we're beginning to see cities and regions set their goals. I think that's been the struggle in the past for us. They've had their climate goals, which has all been around territorial emissions in terms of decarbonising their energy, but they've struggled to see how that fit, how the waste, how they treat their waste and how they reduce their waste really impacts on it. So yeah, I think it's a powerful tool. It certainly uses the right language, or the same language as those people who are setting climate goals at a local level. It's the same language, the same metrics, and it plugs in quite well.
Thanks a lot. And Stephanie, to give you a bit of time, I saw in the chat you mentioned about the importance of reuse in the construction sector. Do you want to elaborate a bit further?
No, just that, because my English is very bad, so sorry.
No worries, no worries. But we will be for sure in touch for going more with answering some the questions posed. Emanuela, up to you back. So we are discussing about the link of climate change and circular economy. What's the Sardinia regional point of view on that?
Well, we in terms of in the national contest, we were the first region approving the climate change adaptation strategy. So now we are working since a couple of years on a national table, trying to really shape all the regional sustainable development strategy according to the concept of climate change adaptation. And we have a table where all the Italian regions are involved. And I saw there was a question as well from another Italian person participating. So I'm available to put you in contact if you want. I'm speaking now with this person, with your region, your city, because we have a very interesting now sharing table at national level, and as well sometimes also thanks to this kind of initiatives with other regions all around Europe, but also thanks to the UN initiative, the 2030 agenda around the world. So coming back to the topic, so the links between circular economy and climate change mitigation and adaptation, because of course this is very important too. We are working a lot on plenty of sectors, but because Sardinia, we have this kind of activities that are involving all the rural areas with the agricultural activities as well as livestock and fisheries. We are working a lot with them about all the agricultural process as well as the livestock, and we did also some live, for example, projects about how to reduce the impact of, for example, the sheep value chain, because there are plenty of sheep. We are kind of Ireland, more little, but there is an important sector which is working on the sheep livestock activity. So within our regional strategy and within all the activities of Sardinia, of course, we are very involved in this kind of activities, trying to reduce the impact of agriculture. But coming back to the question, so how can we involve also the customers? How can we let them know that this kind of products—
30 seconds, Manuela. So
okay. How can we involve the customers? So we are really working to bridge the gap between the producers, so all the rural sectors, and the customers. Also through services and, for example, tourism. And we're working a lot linking adaptation, mitigation, and, for example, the tourism sector through some experimental projects, for example, Destinate Plus, which is an Interreg Med, where we are calculating the footprint, ecological footprint of the ecotourism packages, involving, again, all the stakeholders, so tourist stakeholders, fisheries, agriculture, and so on. Of course, speaking about tourism, speaking also about transport. So we did a lot of activities also for using the bike, of course, instead of, for example, instead of cars and etc. I think my 30 seconds are gone.
Thank you, Manuela. Sorry to
no, it's okay. It's your job. I know.
But time is really running out. We have 1.5 minutes to close, and I'm using your example, your last words. You mentioned direct support from EU institutions. So please, in one slogan, one word, let's use this thread to say one word as a wrap-up message on how can Europe help cities and regions to implement circular economy and climate change policies? Please keep it to one sentence. Arno, do you have something to share?
Yeah, I think we all agree that the fight against climate change but also the way to form circular cities has to be done on the local level. And for that, it's very important to share knowledge, to work together. That's today, I think, a good example of, but we also need the support of our national governments and international governments. So I'm counting on the support of the European Union.
Stephanie, please. We have 1 minute, so the conclusion is yours.
Work can help us. We just have to consume less, consume better, re-employ, and consume local. Voilà. This is the rest.
Thank you, Stephanie. We couldn't find a better word to close this very, very interesting discussion we had. Truly sorry about the how time was short. It would have been much more interesting to keep the dialogue forward, but technician, yes, we need to talk about our consumption. Ayan, your slogan, maybe we have 20 seconds more.
That's my slogan. We need to talk about consumption. We need to seriously think about our consumption, both reducing it and being smarter about it. Ultimately, what's causing the climate crisis. It's just, we're taking too much.
Okay. Thanks again to all of you. It was a truly inspiring hour. And I guess, Leonor, please give me confirmation. We are running out of time. Bye. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Cheers.